Welcome back to our channel. Today, in quiet reverence, we remember the talented artists who left us too soon, some only just days ago. From the icons of Hollywood to rising stars, they each brought light to the world of entertainment until they passed away suddenly. If you feel moved by their stories, we invite you to leave a like as a silent tribute in their memory. Thank you. Now, let us begin.
People take me or leave me. I mean, I'm just Ozzy Osbourne, and I always will be Ozzy Osbourne. It's as if I've lived 3 lives in the last 40 years of, of my
Ozzy
life.
Osbourne, the legendary voice of Black Sabbath and the godfather of heavy metal, has tragically passed away at the age of 76. His family confirmed the heartbreaking news on July 23rd, sharing that Ozzy left this world peacefully, surrounded by love. After a year of battling Parkinson's disease and painful injuries, he still summoned the strength to say goodbye, not with silence, but with music. Just 18 days before his passing, Ozzy took the stage one final time in Birmingham, the city where it all began. His farewell concert, Back to the Beginning, was nothing short of historic. A once-in-a-generation event that reunited him with the original Black Sabbath lineup and featured electrifying performances from Metallica and Guns N' Roses. As 42,000 fans wept and cheered, Ozzy, seated on a throne, whispered, "Thank you from the bottom of my heart." His career was nothing less than iconic. With over 75 million albums sold, 5 Grammy wins, and a star on Hollywood's Walk of Fame, Ozzy redefined rock music, not just through sound, but through sheer survival. Fired in 1979 for his excesses, he returned stronger, launching a solo era that changed the genre forever. He leaves behind his wife Sharon, 6 children, grandchildren, and an unshakable legacy. As Sir Elton John said, he secured his place in the pantheon of rock gods. Farewell, Ozzy, forever.
Last November, Barack Obama was re-elected president. And the black
Malcolm-Jamal Warner, beloved as Theo Huxtable on The Cosby Show, has sadly passed away at the age of 54. A source confirmed to People that Warner tragically drowned while swimming during a family vacation in Costa Rica. His death comes as a heartbreaking loss to generations who grew up watching his warmth, wit, and quiet strength on screen. Warner rose to fame in 1984, portraying the only son in the Huxtable family on The Cosby Show, a groundbreaking sitcom that reshaped Black representation in American media. He went on to lead other beloved series, such as Malcolm and Eddie, Read Between the Lines, and more recently appeared in The Resident, Suits, and 911. But his greatest contribution in recent years may have come off screen. In 2024, he launched the podcast Not All Hood, where he opened up about mental health, vulnerability, and identity in the Black community. A bold and healing conversation few dared to start. He leaves behind a wife, daughter, and a body of work spanning 4 decades. As he once said, "No matter how others feel about it now, I remain proud of the legacy we built." Farewell, Malcolm, forever. Tom Troupe, veteran actor of stage and screen, known for Cheers, Star Trek, and Mary Hartman, has sadly passed away at the age of 97. A family statement confirmed he died of natural causes at his home in Beverly Hills on July 20th. His passing comes just a year after the loss of his wife of nearly 60 years, actress Carol Cook, a heartbreaking farewell between 2 lifelong artistic companions. Troupe's legacy spans more than 6 decades. He appeared in over 75 television series, leaving lasting impressions as Bob Gilroy in Mary Hartman, Judge William E. Gray in Cheers, and Lieutenant Harold in the original Star Trek. He also graced Mission, Impossible, ER, Frasier, and more. On stage, He often performed alongside his wife in plays like The Lion in Winter, Father's Day, and The Gin Game, forming a rare and treasured artistic bond. His greatest personal trial came with Carol's death in 2023. Yet, even in grief, Tom never withdrew. He remained in their Beverly Hills home, carrying on the values of grace, discipline, and quiet devotion until the very end. As we remember his quiet brilliance and enduring presence, we invite you to subscribe and help preserve the legacy of actors like Tom, who may never have chased fame, but truly defined what it means to live a life in art.
Kind of one of the most interesting was when I was about 12 years old, I was doing a television series called The Travels of Janie McPheeters.
Breaking news. Kurt Russell, a journey through stardom, setbacks, and unshakable grit. Where are they now? There are stars who burn bright for a season, and then there are those like Kurt Russell, whose legacy flickers across decades with the quiet strength of a campfire that never dies. If you've ever cheered for the anti-hero Snake Plissken, felt the chill of The Thing, or smiled at the effortless charm of Overboard, you've carried a piece of his story. But today, we invite you to look beyond the icon, into the life behind the lens, the pain behind the performance, and the comeback behind every career pivot. And if you too have weathered storms, stick around. You may find in Kurt's journey a reflection of your own. Let us know in the comments. What's your favorite Kurt Russell film moment? Born on March 17, 1951, in the industrial heart of Springfield, Massachusetts, Kurt Vogel. Russell entered the world under the roof of two very different dreamers. His father, Bing Russell, was a minor league baseball player turned Hollywood character actor. His mother, Louise, a professional dancer who later dedicated herself to raising their children. In their home, baseball and ballet, discipline and imagination shared the same dinner table. Even lullabies had rhythm, Kurt once recalled. You didn't cry off key in our house. It was this unlikely blend of New England grit and West Coast creativity that shaped young Kurt's restless energy. When Bing landed a recurring role on Bonanza in 1956, the Russell family relocated to California. There, at just 6 years old, Kurt swapped snowy mornings for sun-drenched backlots, where painted horizons and studio horses became his playground. Studio crews became his first mentors, teaching him everything from camera etiquette to rope tricks. Behind every yes sir in a milk commercial was a child absorbing the unspoken rules of two industries, sports and storytelling. That discipline found a second home on the baseball diamond. Trained by his father, Kurt played second base for the Thousand Oaks Braves, and by high school, scouts were whispering his name alongside future MLB stars. Acting and baseball battled for his heart, and for a while, it seemed baseball might win. But fate had other plans. In 1966, the game changed, literally. Walt Disney himself signed Kurt to a studio contract, reportedly charmed by the boy's natural timing and composed presence. It was the golden age of Disney's live-action cinema, and Kurt was at its heart. Follow me, boys. The computer wore tennis shoes, and more. But perhaps more important than the roles was Walt's mentorship. He told me, Kurt once shared, "Don't coast. You're only as good as your last frame." That advice would echo through every act of his life. But destiny, as always, tests its champions. Just after high school, Kurt pursued professional baseball. He joined the Class A Bend Rainbows and later the Walla Islanders, impressing with a .563 batting average until one fateful pivot during a double play ruptured his shoulder and ended his athletic dreams. "It wasn't just cartilage," he said years later. "It was part of my identity, torn loose." That injury would become the first great rupture in Kurt's story, a silent explosion that forced a choice and laid the groundwork for the reinvention to come. But before that reinvention came a resurgence. In 1979, director John Carpenter cast Russell as Elvis Presley in the television biopic Elvis. The role demanded not just mimicry, but emotional excavation, capturing both the king's swagger and his shadows. Kurt earned an Emmy nomination, but more importantly, he earned respect. No longer just a Disney alum, he had stepped into the arena of serious performers. That performance also began a creative partnership with Carpenter, a pairing that would go on to define genre cinema in the 1980s. From the sardonic Used Cars to the gritty Escape from New York, 1981, where Russell's iconic Snake Plissken, with his eye patch, sneer, and stoic survivalism, redefined the American action anti-hero. It was the first of many cultural impacts that would solidify his status. But the greatest challenges and the deepest transformations were still waiting beyond the spotlight. For a man who once straddled the divide between stadium lights and studio sets, losing baseball was more than losing a dream. It was losing half of himself. In the early 1970s, just as Kurt Russell began tasting the adrenaline of professional play, a routine double play turned catastrophic. A pivot, a tear, a shoulder never quite the same. Just like that, the game that had grounded him since childhood was gone. It wasn't just an injury, he reflected years later. It was the end of a future I'd built my identity around. That moment, far from public view, marked the first great rupture in Kurt's life, a personal cliffhanger where applause couldn't reach. He could have lingered in grief, but instead, he pivoted once more, this time toward the lens, the lights, and the lifelong lessons of Walt Disney, whose voice still echoed, "Don't coast." The pain fueled precision. With nothing left to prove in baseball, Kurt poured everything into acting. And soon, roles came, not for the boy he had been, but for the man he was becoming. Snake Plissken, R.J. McCready, Wyatt Earp, characters hardened by experience, skeptical, but still standing. Beneath their grizzled facades lived something personal, Kurt's own reckoning with loss and survival. But grief, like a relentless sequel, returned. In 1966, shortly after Kurt signed with Disney, Walt Disney himself passed away. For the teenage Russell, it was a sudden void. He wasn't just a boss, Kurt said. He was the first person in power who believed I could carry a story. In 1991, the loss deepened. His mother, Louise, died of cancer. She had been his emotional compass, the dancer who taught rhythm to line delivery, the one who gently corrected posture with a tap and infused his early characters with elegance. When she passed, Kurt didn't rush to the next set. Instead, he retreated to their Oregon ranch and spent months in solitude, hammer in hand, renovating beams and barns, transmuting sorrow into timber. Then, in 2003, the pillar of duality, his father, Bing Russell, was gone. Bing had been both dugout sage and movie set journeyman. At the memorial, baseball players and crew members mingled, swapping stories about the same man in different costumes. Kurt stood between two worlds, realizing how deeply each had carved him. That day, he vowed to carry the torch of mentorship, becoming to others what his father had been to him. Even in health, life tested his resilience. In 2013, a minor surgical procedure spiraled into a life-threatening MRSA infection. The incision reddened, the fever rose, and soon Russell was hooked to IV antibiotics under sterile fluorescent light, alone, vulnerable. Nurses were my lifeline at 3 a.m., he later admitted. Their kindness pierced through the noise in my head. The recovery wasn't just medical, it was spiritual. He began funding research into antibiotic resistance, quietly, without press releases. That near miss, he said, reminded him of life's fragility and the urgency of presence. Between roles, Kurt's body bore the toll of his profession. From backdrafts, smoke inhalation, to a meniscus tear while heli-skiing in British Columbia, his joints and voice fought to keep pace. And still, he refused shortcuts. On every set, he unfolded what crewmates called the Kurt Kit, a portable gym bag packed with resistance bands, foam rollers, and a jump rope. "You don't wait to break down before you stretch," he'd quip. But perhaps the most poignant symbol of his resilience came not from a film set or red carpet, but from his own wall. There hangs an old, cracked baseball bat, retired from his playing days, its splinter just above the grip. He shows it to his grandchildren and says, "This dent? That's not failure. That's character if you keep swinging." It's more than memorabilia. It's a personal parable, carved in wood, passed between generations like a torch. As the industry shifted toward younger stars, high-tech sets, and streaming timelines, Kurt Russell didn't fade. He adapted, not by chasing relevance, but by rooting deeper in authenticity. When asked how he still finds the will to say yes to late-night shoots at 74, he just shrugs and says, "Stars are brightest when the air is cold." That's not just a clever line. It's a creed. He traded urgency for intention. Films became fewer but richer. Collaborations more meaningful. In 2014, co-producing The Battered Bastards of Baseball reopened old wounds about his short-lived sports career. But it also brought closure, pride, and narrative redemption. For the first time, his lost dream became someone else's inspiration. Through grief, through injury, through fading spotlights, Kurt never truly disappeared. He simply evolved, from player to performer, from performer to producer, from icon to mentor. And in that evolution lies the greatest comeback of all. These days, Kurt Russell begins most mornings long before the world stirs. On a 160-acre ranch nestled in the Colorado Rockies, he and Goldie Hawn cradle steaming mugs of black coffee beneath a porch that overlooks open paddocks. Grandchildren chase the chill with laughter. The scent of pine and soil hangs in the air. No red carpets, no trailers, just the rhythm of a man who's earned the right to slow down and chooses not to. "I treat each morning like a table read," he jokes. "Except the lines change depending on who shows up." At 74, Kurt's posture is straight, his movements deliberate. His voice still carries the gravelly charm of Snake Plissken and Wyatt Earp. But behind the weathered ease is a routine honed with military precision. Yoga flows, resistance bands, brain puzzles, and daily walks with Goldie aren't hobbies. They're rehearsals for longevity. "Comfort dulls craft," he says. "Discipline sustains it." In a world chasing youth, Kurt Russell has become a veteran mentor, both on and off screen. Through Roadrunner Pictures, his production company, he backs mid-budget films that studios often overlook. One such gem, Pine Cone Crescent, a coming-of-age tale set in 1970s Oregon, earned festival acclaim for its authenticity. Kurt declined on-screen credit. He preferred the applause to land where it belonged, on the next generation. Through the Mind Up Foundation, co-founded with Goldie, he champions mindfulness in public schools, equipping children with emotional resilience long before fame or failure can shake them. And in the world of baseball, his first love, he funds rural youth programs across New England and the Pacific Northwest, ensuring that cost never becomes a barrier to talent. At each ribbon cutting, he brings a bat. Not new, not shiny, the old, cracked one from his own past. He taps it lightly and tells young players, legacy isn't about stats. It's what you do after the swing doesn't land. Even his recent return to the screen reflects his belief in generational storytelling. In Monarch, Legacy of Monsters, he shares the screen and the same character with his son, Wyatt. The scenes move between timelines, between father and son, between memory and meaning. For Kurt, it wasn't just science fiction. It was a chance to pass the torch, not by fading out, but by standing beside. Looking ahead, he's slated to reprise Mr. Nobody in the final Fast and Furious installment, now in pre-production. But it won't come at the cost of family dinners or mountain sunrises. The contract includes condensed shoot days, a sign that Hollywood is finally meeting the veteran on his terms. Meanwhile, at the ranch, projects bloom. He's writing a limited series western that he will direct, score, and narrate. A symphony of every passion he's ever held. And on weekends, he still pilots his restored 1946 Navy airplane across the Rockies, keeping FAA certifications current, mental acuity sharp, and the child inside him very much alive. At night, under a ceiling of stars, Kurt often returns to the porch, sometimes with a script, sometimes with nothing but silence, and always with the old bat resting nearby. He watches embers fade in the fire pit, the grandchildren asleep, the mountains still. If legacy had a shape, it might look like this. A man who traded velocity for clarity, applause for mentorship, survival for stewardship. When asked recently what keeps him saying yes to new projects, to new mornings, to the grind, he simply replied, play ball. Not as nostalgia, but as invitation. To begin, again and again. So if this story moved you, if you've ever faced a detour or mourned a dream, take it from Kurt Russell. You don't have to vanish to reinvent. You just have to swing, even with a cracked bat. Subscribe for more journeys of resilience, comeback, and legacy. And remember, the director's clap can echo even in the quietest rooms, if we dare to step into the frame.